In the previous episode, we presented a succinct overview of Ukraine's post-Soviet period and examined the profound consequences of the Soviet regime on the nation. This period was marked by economic and social challenges. Today, we transition to a crucial juncture that acts as the trigger for the future armed conflict, providing valuable insights into the past that unfolded before us. Make sure you got yourself a cup of tea or coffee. We are starting. During Yanukovych's presidency, pro-Ukrainian and pro-European opposition groups in Ukraine continued to organize rallies and protests, including the controversial Maidan pickets and similar events. Despite the active efforts of the opposition, Yanukovych and his corrupt associates were able to embrace state resources with impunity. In November 2013, the Ukrainian cabinet of ministers took a dangerous step by withdrawing its intention to sign the Ukraine-EU Association Agreement, which had been in preparation since 2012, in order to appease the pro-European opposition. This decision provoked strong indignation among the opposition and pro-European Ukrainian youths, leading to the initiation of massive rallies that later became known as Euromaidan. The Euromaidan movement gained momentum as protests spread to the main squares of major cities such as Kharkiv, Odessa, Lviv, and even Donetsk. Young people from all corners of Ukraine flocked to Kiev, especially to Maidan of Independence, in significant numbers. Within days, a tent city had sprung up on Euromaidan, complete with stage and screens. On the opposing side, Berkut units were strategically positioned, forming a formidable presence that blocked the main roads leading to the government district. Following the well-known tactics of autocratic leaders, Yanukovych's political regime consolidated control over the state's internal army, asserting its dominance and aligning it with its own interests, as the principles of maintaining power in authoritarian regimes remain consistent, monopolizing the use of force. The night of November 30th marked a decisive and irreversible moment for Yanukovych's criminal network. A clash broke out between the Berkut forces and group of students on Euromaidan. Until that night, Euromaidan had been a grand spectacle, with concerts, songs, and flags reminiscent of the 2004 atmosphere, all embodying the spirit of freedom. This time, however, things took a different turn. The Berkut squad received a direct order and ruthlessly attacked peaceful, unarmed students in a manner reminiscent of a medieval hunt. The intentions behind this order were clear: to instill fear in the Euromaidan demonstrators, to teach a harsh lesson in the style of the Middle Ages, and to serve as a warning of the consequences if the rally continued. The same goal was obviously clear within Euromaidan, but the response to the beating of students by their own internal army had a parametrically opposite effect. Out of the remnants of the Soviet era, a nation relatively unknown to the world until recently, the Ukrainians awoke and revealed the true essence of their character. Ukrainians believe that on that day, November 30th, the true Ukrainian church St. Michael's Cathedral experienced a rebirth and opened its doors to embrace the injured and wounded students. This pivotal moment awakened a sense of a national identity among the Ukrainian people, and from the ashes of the Soviet era, the nation emerged and revealed its true character. On this momentous day, young individuals and conscious Ukrainians rallied together and equipped themselves with sticks and shields, transforming protesters into cohesive units known as self-defense units. The Euromaidan movement started to evolve into a true revolution, and the self-defense units transformed from a mere gathering of like-minded individuals into a structured army. They established chains of command, headquarters, and even set up training camps. These units, known as Sotnas, deliberately adopted Cossack-inspired names as a tribute to their ancestors who held freedom as their fundamental purpose. Following the assault on students on November 30th, in addition to the militant groups, another movement called Euromaidan emerged. Euromaidan was a distinct form of protest, characterized by the strategic use of vehicles. The Maidan headquarters and Euromaidan established their own communication system to facilitate coordination. A fleet of 10 to 200 cars patrolled the city, diligently observing and reporting the movements of police vehicles and the Berkut squad to the headquarters. This vigilance aimed to maintain a watchful eye on the authorities and keep the Maidan community informed about potential threats or developments. Across every administrative center in all regions of Ukraine, similar units were established, and they embarked on training exercises to enhance their capabilities. Meanwhile, the Russian side closely monitored the situation and offered specific recommendations on how to suppress the uprising. However, the unexpected formation of a full-fledged army in response to the aggressive actions caught the Kremlin off guard. Mere recommendations proved insufficient in solving the problem, as losing control over a vital region was only part of the challenge. The potential threat of the revolutionary spirit spreading further and igniting similar movements became a cause for concern, prompting the Kremlin to take countermeasures in order to prevent such a scenario from unfolding. The primary and most efficacious method for the Kremlin to shield itself from comparable scenarios in Red Square is through the art of propaganda, meticulously fostering unwavering trust among its populace in television and central news outlets. The Kremlin has previously employed such techniques, as witnessed in high-profile cases like the Hexicon attacks and the Beslan school shooting. Nevertheless, these instances pertain to distorting the truth and manipulating facts, predominantly at a regional scale. Presently, the Kremlin's propagandistic endeavors confront an altogether different objective: a burgeoning revolutionary movement within a vast European state that commands global attention, gracing the front pages of renowned news sources and publications worldwide. Euromaidan resonated deeply within EU news, as it was regarded as a matter of great personal significance. The entire European continent stood in solidarity, praying for the courageous individuals who yearned for freedom. However, within the Russian news, narratives that many Ukrainians anticipated emerged. labeling Euromaidan as an armed coup attempt orchestrated by ghost Hitler's Nazis from Lviv and funded by the United West. Such a preposterous portrayal of their national movement on Russian television sparked profound outrage among Ukrainians. This distortion sowed the initial seeds of animosity, awakening a strong sense of indignation among the Ukrainian people. In response, they swiftly invoked the timeless words of Taras Shevchenko, Ukraine's beloved poet, whose verses resounded with a call to combat the oppressive forces emanating from Moscow. The propaganda undoubtedly had an impact on the people residing in Russia's heartland, as they perceive Ukraine not as a separate and unfamiliar nation, but rather as fellow Russians. However, the propaganda also had adverse effects, stirring a sense of resentment among Ukrainians, not only towards Yanukovych's corrupt regime, but also towards the Kremlin itself. It became evident that Yanukovych was intricately tied to the Kremlin, serving as project orchestrated by Russian authorities. In addition to the well-known slogan, "Gang Out," which became synonymous with Euromaidan, other slogans reverberated across the Maidan, provoking outrage among Russians. Phrases such as "who does not jump is a Moscovite" and "the Moscows to the woodshed" were particularly inflammatory. These slogans only served to further fuel anti-Maidan propaganda in Russia and perpetuated myths about the emergency of an anti-Russian sentiment within Ukraine. The Kremlin's subsequent action targeted the newly formed self-defense units. 3 transport planes from the Russian aerospace forces arrived in Kiev, carrying a comprehensive arsenal of equipment intended to suppress the protesters. The supplies included shields, police batons, helmets, body armor, and air rifles, all intended to bolster the Berkut units, while some reports suggested the presence of a sniper squad among the equipment. A Berkut officer, in an interview, openly acknowledged the need to halt this invasion here, because Moscow will be the next.
Поэтому мы их не можем предать, естественно, и отступать не можем. Конечно, это за нами Москва. Я надеюсь, поймут меня правильно. Спасибо.
Given that Ukraine's media landscape was largely dominated by Russian television and radio, Kremlin propaganda formed a receptive audience within the pro-Russian segment of Ukraine. In an attempt to counteract the Maidan protests, which they labeled as anti-Maidan, the Kremlin took further action. Yanukovych, operating under the influence of the Kremlin, started financing artificial rallies against Euromaidan. He assembled individuals from the pro-Russian sector, driving supporters from Donbass and Crimea. These participants, referred to as Titushki, adopted their nickname from Titushko, a notorious provocateur whose actions were widely broadcasted on television. The fires of revolutions are often accompanied by widespread criminal disorder, extensive looting, savagery, and a breakdown of law and order, despite the real medieval-like massacres that unfolded on main streets of Kiev, which fortunately resulted in no deaths. The life outside the revolutionary sphere continued relatively calmly. In one poignant scene, a Berkut fighter and a self-defense soldier from the Euromaidan squads can be seen standing together in a market queue. However, their camaraderie is short-lived, as on the streets and barricades, they assume the roles of sworn enemies. This stark contrast highlights the duality of their existence. Unfortunately, this unusual scene of coexistence during the revolution was short-lived. On January 22, 2014, a sniper group from the Russian GRU was given the green light to employ deadly force, triggering the countdown for the tragic events associated with the well-known Heavenly Hundred. Yanukovych delivered a stirring address to the nation, issuing an ultimatum demanding surrender. At the same time, the Euromaidan barricades faced an onslaught as military machinery attempted to storm their fortifications. However, the unwavering self-defense forces bravely thwarted these advances, leaving the machinery in smoldering ruins. To cut off the flow of reinforcements to the Euromaidan, rail traffic was brought to a standstill, disrupting vital supply lines. Responding with unwavering resolve, self-defense forces launched offensives in various regions, penetrating government administrations, police stations, and even the security service of Ukraine. Lviv, Ivano-Frankivsk, Chernivtsi, Khmelnytsky, Vinnytsia, Ternopil, Uzhgorod, and Dnipropetrovsk were completely under the control of these courageous self-defense units. The intense confrontation persisted for approximately a month throughout the late days of February. While the worker forces occasionally impeded the advance of the self-defense forces, the larger picture became crystal clear for both the Kremlin and Yanukovych. Power and control over the state had been effectively lost. The heart-wrenching reality unfolded as quasi-state forces opened fire on innocent citizens in the capital, a sign unbefitting of civilized European country. In negotiations with the opposition leaders, Yanukovych sought a path towards resolution. An agreement was reached to restore the 2004 constitution, heralding a shift from a presidential parliamentary system to a parliamentary presidential one. On February 21, 2014, Ukraine's parliament voted in favor of this constitutional status, but also took decisive action by dismissing Zakharchenko from his position as acting interior minister. Subsequently, the Speaker of the Parliament tendered resignation, making way for the appointment of Turchinov as new Speaker. The shake-up continued, with new appointments made to crucial positions such as the heads of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, the Security Service, and the Ministry of Defense. Amidst the clamor of change, an urgent decision was made to release Tymoshenko, Yanukovych's formidable opponent in the previous election. These developments signified a pivotal moment in Ukraine's political landscape as the nation embarked on a path of transformation and reconciliation. Yanukovych found himself in an unenviable position within this unfolding narrative, fully aware that his actions during the Maidan protests would not go unpunished. Recognizing the mounting challenges, he made a swift and fateful decision to escape to Donetsk, the sole region that appeared relatively loyal on the surface. It was there that he issued a public statement denouncing the events as coup d'etat and rebellion, desperately seeking to justify his actions. His attempt to fly from Donetsk airport to Moscow however, encountered an insurmountable obstacle, as it was blocked. Faced with dwindling options, Yanukovych made the fateful choice to flee to Crimea, seeking refuge in its familiar territory. In an extraordinary turn of events, special Russian military warships were mobilized for his evacuation from Crimea, underscoring the magnitude of the crisis and the involvement of external forces. The following day, the Ukrainian parliament took a decisive step by voting to oust Yanukovych from the presidency of Ukraine. The resolution titled on the self-removal of the President of Ukraine from the exercise of constitutional powers and the appointment of early presidential elections garnered significant support. In accordance with the provisions outlined in the Ukrainian constitution, an early presidential election was officially announced, scheduled to take place on May 25, 2014. This revolution has become an extraordinary example, a wellspring of inspiration that continues to fuel the fervent struggle for liberty in countless nations across the globe. In 2014, a resounding rally reverberated in St. Petersburg, where the presence of in German land flags bore profound symbolism, representing a longing for independence that the Kremlin vehemently opposed. Tragically, the protests faced suppression, hindered by the fragmented support of society at large. Fast forward to 2019, when courageous voices in Hong Kong fearlessly proclaimed their admiration for the Ukrainian struggle. Their powerful testimonies captured on camera as a resounding testament to the revolution's global impact. The fiery spirit of Ukrainian revolution also ignited a fervent yearning for change within the heart of Belarusian society in 2020. Notably, even upon the hallowed grounds of Maidan, Belarusians stood united with their Ukrainian counterparts, offering unwavering support amidst a backdrop of imminent annexation and occupation by another so-called sister in this anomalous trio. These interconnected chapters of history speak volumes, reminding us of the boundless power that lies within the pursuit of justice and the resilience of the human spirit. The revolution of dignity stands as an internal beacon, guiding us towards the future where freedom and dignity prevail.